On our 5th anniversary, I walked into the country club carrying a cake, only to overhear something I shouldn't have. Who said I love Eleanor? I'm only with her because she looks like Vivian. She's nothing but a stand-in. Besides, Vivian's too delicate. Eleanor's just a tool I use to get off. Laughter erupted from inside the private room. I stood outside the door, my heart sinking bit by bit. 5 years. I'd pulled all-nighters for him countless times to secure deals, even lowered myself into the dust to love him, only to end up as nothing more than a tool to get off in his mouth. I didn't storm in to confront him. I didn't cry or make a scene. I turned around, threw the cake in the trash, and dialed the number of Tobias's biggest rival. Mr. Holt, I'd like to accept your invitation to join your team. Eleanor's paw of the corridor of the upscale country club was dimly lit. I clutched the homemade mousse cake in my hand, my footsteps freezing outside the half-open door of a private room. Today marked the 5th year of my relationship with Tobias. Do you mean what should I do? These past 5 years Eleanor spoiled Tobias rotten. Everyone in investment banking knows she's the sharpest blade in his hand. Not only does she dominate at the negotiating table, but she goes home and takes care of Mr. Reed like nobody's business. Derek's voice carried a teasing, mocking tone. My breath caught. My grip on the cake box handle tightened. Tobias and I kept our relationship secret. He said his grandfather didn't like publicity, and once he firmly secured his position as head of the Reed family, he'd give me a grand public announcement. I believed him. For 5 years, I'd been like a tireless top, charging into battle for him in the business world, blocking attacks both open and hidden. The room fell silent for a few seconds, then came the crisp sound of a lighter wheel striking. Vivian's too soft. Those old vultures in the Reed family are ruthless, and the business world is even more cutthroat. Tobias's voice carried its usual cold indifference. Eleanor's smart and resilient. Using her as a shield to pave the way for Vivian, couldn't be more perfect. Each word pierced my heart like an ice pick. Damn, you're ruthless. Derek sucked in a breath. So these 5 years, you've just been using Eleanor as a human shield? But seriously, Eleanor's absolutely stunning. You never caught feelings? Feelings? Tobias let out a soft, disdainful laugh. A woman whose biological father is unknown, raised on her stepfather's meager salary. Does she deserve to enter the Reed family? If she didn't look a bit like Vivian around the eyes, I wouldn't have given her a second glance when Vivian went abroad. The room erupted in laughter. That's why Mr. Reed is so devoted. For our Miss Sullivan, he forced himself to tolerate a stand-in for 5 years despite his germophobia. Right? Eleanor probably thinks she can actually cross class barriers, working herself to death in investment banking every day, not realizing she's just working for Vivian. Outside the door, my entire body went cold, my limbs so stiff I couldn't even muster the strength to step back. Vivian Sullivan, my half-sister on my mother's side. It's the one my mother took with her when she left. Raised in the Sullivan family, pampered and spoiled, held in everyone's palm like a little princess. While I struggled at the bottom with my sick stepfather, I studied desperately, clawed my way up desperately, all to be worthy of Tobias. But it turned out, from the very beginning, I was just a joke. A living target pushed to the front to protect Vivian Sullivan. I looked down at the cake in my hands. It still read Happy 5th Anniversary. The irony was almost poetic. I took a deep breath, forcefully suppressing the stinging in my eyes. I took that cake I'd spent all afternoon making, and precisely tossed it into the trash can beside the corridor. The soft thud sounded like a funeral for 5 wasted years of my youth. I turned and walked away from the club without looking back. The night breeze was cool, blowing away the lingering scent of alcohol and vice. I sat in the taxi, pulled out my phone, and calmly unpinned Tobias's chat, then opened another PIN number. Dad, how are you feeling today? I tried hard to keep any trace of emotion from my voice. Eleanor, I'm doing fine. Don't worry so much about me, you work so hard. Take care of yourself. My father's weary but kind voice came through. Did Tobias spend the anniversary with you today? Hearing my father's words, my nose tingled sharply, tears nearly spilling. My father had severe kidney disease. He was currently staying at a private hospital owned by Reed Corporation, surviving on expensive experimental drugs. Yes, he took me to a fancy dinner. I tilted my head back, forcing the tears back in. Dad, focus on getting better. Don't worry about anything else. After hanging up, I watched the neon lights streak past the window. Back at the luxury apartment I shared with Tobias, I felt no attachment. I pulled out a suitcase and started packing my belongings. Clothes, skincare products, laptop, the things that belonged to me were pitifully few. 5 years, and I'd barely left any trace of life in this gorgeous cage. All those designer bags and expensive jewelry Tobias casually bought, I hadn't touched a single piece. They were all neatly arranged in the walk-in closet. I found them disgusting. I just zipped up my suitcase when I heard the electronic lock at the entrance click open. Tobias walked in carrying a faint scent of alcohol mixed with his signature mint fragrance. He loosened his tie and casually tossed his suit jacket on the sofa. When he saw the suitcase in the middle of the living room, his narrow eyes narrowed slightly. What's this tantrum in the middle of the night? His tone carried a hint of impatience. I grip.